Welcome everyone to the first edition podcast of A Breath of Fresh Career. I've got a guest here by the name of Ben Defoe. Ben is a regional vice president enterprise in the central region for a company by the name of Blackline. He's a dad, 3 beautiful kids. 2 of them are twins. I don't know how he does it. Husband, unbelievable golfer. Do not bet this guy on the golf course because he will take your money. I first met Ben in New York. We were working together. Client recruiter, and I first met Ben at a I think it was like a Google phone launch or something like that. Ben, wasn't it? Explain what that was.
Well, thanks for having me. And when I'm not playing golf or hanging out with my kids or working, I tend to dabble in technology.
Yes,
actually, Justin, you probably call me often about what's the latest stuff? What should I be looking at? Can I get something cooler than what I have? But no, so it was an interesting little pop-up event. So there's a up and coming and now they're kind of mainstream company called OnePlus. And so it was a pop-up event for the OnePlus 6 at the time. And now they're all the way up to 8. I don't know.
Many years ago.
But exactly. I feel like I've aged at least 10 years between that time we met the first time. But,
I know.
But yeah, so it was a really unique event. It was like the first, and I was all giddy with you on the phone about like, hey man, there's this pop-up event that's happening. And you're like, what's a pop-up event? So the first time we meet, we met to get drinks, and then we're going to go have dinner, and we're going to talk about business and about the plans to grow this company that I was at the time. And I was like, I got to pause for a minute. I got to go get this phone at this pop-up event. There's a celebrity like YouTuber there that's promoting it. And you walked up. When you walked up, you're like, dude, the line's around. Like, I think we were in the Flatiron.
Flatiron, yeah.
The line was like around like 3 blocks.
Absolutely.
To get to this place. And I think I said, well, I'll just wait till it dies down. And I was like one of the last ones to get in there. It's kind of lucky, but anyway, it was a unique way to meet you for sure.
Yeah, it was fun, and it's a story I'll always remember. It's a crazy time right now. I want to ask what new mobile device you're using. You're probably on 3 different types of phones right now. We'll get to that, but during these crazy times, what are you doing with the family? Like, it's pandemic season.
So, it's a lot of the same routine, right? Well, we're going on vacation. We decided to still do that. We were supposed to be in Disney in June. That's been canceled and postponed until next year. I was supposed to take my son to Wrigley Field this year for his birthday. So like, I'm going to take my daughter to New York City this year for her birthday. Like, it was all this stuff that was supposed to happen, right? So, well, they all learned how to ride their bikes in about a week.
Awesome.
And so, I mean, the twins kind of knew what they were riding. And so my twins are 8 and I have a little girl that turned 5, and she's kind of the kid that picks up anything and just knows how to do it. So she learned how to ride a bike in like 3 days. So every day at like 3:00, we go out and ride bikes. But I think it's just trying to have some sort of routine that keeps their mind and keeps their brains and bodies active. Working out with them, running, walking, doing all that stuff, trying to play sports. My son's, he has video game hours where he can play video games during the day. And then I'm working.
Right? I mean,
my wife's a saint. She has to keep up with all this stuff. And so she works harder than me. I always say that. And then it's pool. We go to the pool and, just trying to keep a steady routine, I think is what matters for kids that are young.
So jumping into business.
Yeah.
Blackline. Blackline is a provider of cloud-based solutions that transform finance and accounting by automating, I'm reading this right, centralizing and streamlining financial close operations, intercompany accounting processes, and other key financial accounting, processes for large and mid-sized organizations. Tell me in your own words what that is.
Yeah.
Tell me about Blackline.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. So Blackline's been around for quite some time. We went public in 2017, and really, what we have done is just modernize the way that accounting practices should happen, especially in a world we're in now, where you have massive companies have these distributed workforces. Where working from home now, actually, where you and I have been doing it forever, it's kind of the normal now. And so if you think about an accounting practice that typically happens over spreadsheets, just manual work, and it's a lot of paper, and then it takes a long time to do for monthly, quarterly, and annual closes, and then you have auditing that happens in between all those things. Well, a lot can be lost in a manual process, especially distributed workforce. You can't walk down the hall and hand someone this, and you can't send someone a massive spreadsheet when you got 5 megabytes in your internet at home, right? I mean, there's just so in a world we're in now, I think it's really about modernizing that process, and we do streamline that process, but we help automate that close process. In doing so, we help companies identify deficiencies in their financial process, whether that's through auditing, through giving auditors better visibility into that process, so they know when things happen, or giving CEOs, CFOs, CAOs visibility into breakdowns, so that if there's a lot of money that people throw away every year, right?
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of risk that's involved if you get audited by if you're a public company. So there's a lot of attention to it. It's not going away. Luckily I'm in an industry that's thriving right now.
That's great.
And I think we're the golden de facto. I mean, we are the leader in this space, and we have been for many years, 7, 8+ going on the Gartner report as a leader in this space, and we continue to do it, and hopefully for years to come.
So you're a regional vice president of sales for the Central region.
Yep.
Blackline. Tell me about the role you play there.
Yeah. So I've got 6 enterprise account executives that span from multiple states. Most of them are based in Texas. I have 3 reps in Texas. I've got a rep in St. Louis.
Do you guys have an office there, or is it remote?
There's no offices. We have offices across the globe, in a couple different locations, but no, most of my reps are in their territories. So they're selling into Dallas, selling into Houston, selling into the greater part of Texas, selling into Missouri, St. Louis. My rep in Cincinnati selling into Kentucky and Indiana. The only lone one I have a rep that's with me in Raleigh, North Carolina, and he covers Tennessee all the way down to Louisiana, we'll call it. Just
okay.
States there. But in a normal world, you can easily get to Tennessee from North Carolina, and we have a lot of business there. So, but my role is to be the frontline support for them. So whether that's meeting with my counterparts at partners, meeting with my counterpart at prospects, but just giving them comfort into things that they need. I don't want them to be bogged down into internal things that take a lot of time and effort to do. If I can clear that noise and just help them focus on selling, and then really helping them refine their process, right? Are they staying on top of things? Is there attention to detail? And it's constantly reviewing pipeline, and it's my job to hit our number for a region and to be able to accurately forecast those things.
Sure.
So I'm looking for ways to help them work better, help them, and to be honest, it's just to be a human being, just to be like, I don't need everybody to love me, like me, whatever it is, but I want to understand you as a person. And if I can help you achieve your goals outside of the monetary means of what I get from that, it's rewarding to me as a
absolutely
as a mentor, as a as a frontline executive that's wanting to be further on in my career, and we can talk about that in a minute. But it really helps me to see them be successful. So just kind of taking the human side of things and being empathetic to the things that they do every day is proven to be pretty successful.
Ben, you're striking a chord, man. That's one of the main reasons why we came together on this first episode. It's like, you know, you and I were chatting. I'm getting reached out to by so many people who have found themselves on the not so great end of this pandemic, and or looking for change. This might present a great opportunity for them to change. And you know, like I said, I can't talk to everyone, so
Right.
why don't I talk to some of the pros out there that I think do a really good job at what they do, and this way they can, people who are looking or interested could take some of what we're speaking about and apply it to their own process. And you know,
Sure.
I love to start by asking, you know, how you got your start in enterprise software. Like, tell us a little bit about like how you got into this.
Yeah. So I kind of lucked into it, but it's around 2006. I was in retail, as you can believe it or not, but I ran an Urban Outfitters in Durham, and I ran an American Eagle for years. So I'd been managing 16-year-olds and I don't know, we'll call them 20-something-year-old assistant managers for years. With P&L, with just hiring, firing, building, you know, brand and selling clothes.
Absolutely.
So I had kind of that in my blood, and was very successful doing that, but just working, you know, 80 hours a week for no pay, basically.
Yes.
And so,
Awesome.
you know, it was kind of the boom of the email marketing time, right? I think email marketing and digital marketing started to take it started to really take off around 2005. Most of the companies started between 2003 and 2005.
It was right around there that like
Exact Target,
you know, online sales surpassed in-store sales for like the first time.
Exactly. So I went to a startup called Bronto Software, which is now part of NetSuite, part of Oracle, as all these things tend to happen, consolidation. But started there, and they had nobody that was managing their accounts. So I knew nothing about their technology. I knew nothing about email marketing. And so
you're working in a brick and mortar. You're
working. Yeah, exactly.
You're selling rags.
But I was employee 22, and you know, we're in this loft exposed brick building that was probably the size as of my downstairs of my house. We're all crammed in there sitting together. It's, you know, it's what startups you think about, right? I went through it. But this was a company that I did some research on, and my wife knew somebody that worked there and got me an interview. And I actually got turned down the first time I applied.
No.
Yeah. So I applied for a sales position, just a straight selling position. And I was fourth in line for 3 spots. So they really wanted me, but didn't have a role.
So really quickly, your wife knew somebody in there. Did you apply through that person?
Yeah, I applied through that person, got an interview, and they liked me so much. They're like, we got to find a role for this guy.
Yeah.
So they called, my first title was Renewals Associate, and they had no one that was running any of their accounts, right?
So existing customers, they want to make sure that they renew solution on an annual basis, biannual basis.
And so, you know, long story short, right, they're doing like these monthly, quarterly contracts. I said, guys, like, I'm looking into all these accounts, and I don't know much about this stuff, but you know, common sense says that if we want to like capitalize on revenue, we need to get them probably on an annual basis from a renewals perspective. Like, we're going to lose people left and right if we don't. And then how do we take a top-down approach on kind of, you know, working with these accounts? So, I mean, we had 1,800, 2,000 clients at the time, and really, really small clients, right? But it's like, I can't talk to 1,800 clients, right?
No way.
So I decided, well, I'm going to take the top 25%, and I'm just going to focus on them. Everybody else will just kind of get emails, and I started to build a cadence with those things. And so I was very successful in building and growing our existing base. And I built an organization there early on that, that ultimately was, became thriving. And then I kind of transitioned over to net new and found a knack for really going out and hunting and selling.
That's awesome.
That's where I kind of cut my teeth and got my, self into enterprise software.
It's funny because, 46 years old, I take a look at kind of what I learned, and still learning every single day, but I take a look at kind of what I learned throughout my time as a professional. And I ask myself, like, God, if I really knew about this before I started, I'd be that much more ahead. Like if we learn a lot as we grow, and what do you wish you had known when you kind of got started out in business? Share a little story.
Honestly, it's empathy, man. I mean, seriously, like just humanizing the things that we do.
You mentioned that earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a theme that you'll hear from me because it's honestly important to be able to have a conversation with someone and understand where they're at, whether they're the janitor all the way up through the CEO. It's that idea and the concept of empathetic selling, I think really resonates, especially nowadays.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's only going to continue to be a focal point of really understanding the other side of the coin. It helps you decipher where people are at, where companies are at, but it also helps you build relationships that are, hopefully longer lasting than just I'm selling you software and then I'm moving on.
So you're in a position at Blackline where you're hiring folks,
sure.
Interviewing. How do you identify whether or not somebody's got empathy, when interviewing them, and really, like, what are some of the key characteristics you look for when you're interviewing candidates? Yeah.
I mean, I think it's tough, right? And now it's even tougher because you're doing it all over the phone, and you kind of have to look hard at references and look hard at resumes, but prior to all this, and I'm meeting people in person, and you've helped me go through this. It's really understanding the genuineness of a person, and do you feel that they have the ability to have a concrete conversation with someone and come off as being genuine, right? And it's asking them about stories and life experiences that they've had, right? And being able to articulate that to me versus looking at things in kind of this robotic fashion of, I was at this company, I was selling this, I crushed my number, I did all this. Well, that's great, but do you like what you do? Do you enjoy the things that you do? And do I have the ability to help you get further into where you want to be in your life and career, right? I think because I look at that as an investment, right? And if I'm going to make an investment in you, I want to make sure that you're going to get the things you want out of it. Because if I can't provide that for you, I'm going to be paying way more money for you down the road. Absolutely. And you're going to be costing me time and money. Now that's the business side of it, but and then it's just the human side of it is, are you a good person? Like, can I understand? And, I think our jobs is to be able to read, characteristics and be able to read people and be able to see if they can do those types of things. And, hopefully those are long lasting things. We are in we get in this kind of world now where people jump around and they grass is greener. Everything is always more important. Oh, yeah. And, I've had my battles with that in my career too, but I think it's, someone who's had some stability, who can talk about that stability and has good stories about the things that they've done. Right. And it's not just sales stories. It's just genuineness, really. So
tons of technology out there today, social media. Yep. Are you mostly leveraging LinkedIn? Are you looking at resumes? Are you looking at a combination of both? And like, what's important for you to see when you're looking at a black and white profile?
Yeah. So it's a combination of LinkedIn and resumes. I'm still old school. I still want you to send me your resume because you can not be transparent, we'll call it, on LinkedIn. You have the ability, and LinkedIn can kind of hide some of those things that I want to make sure I understand.
Yeah, like months with regard to
year, even a year gap, right? And then it helps me to understand, can they put something on paper that's meaningful, right? Are they sending the same resume out to everybody? Are they updating it? Are they changing things
tailoring
based
it.
off?
Yeah.
Are they tailoring it based off of where they're applying for? Because just like in business, right? I'm not going to send the same proposal. I'm not going to send the same communication out to everyone because it doesn't work.
Ben, one of the biggest mistakes I see as a recruiter is people just, when they create a new resume, is they take an old resume and they add what they've done more recently to it. And that's their resume. Now, that's a good start, but how do we make that thing kind of flow, right?
Yeah,
how can we edit, what they've done in the past to make it relate and help them, paint that full color picture to a guy like you and somebody like me who's looking at resumes all day long. What about social media? Are you looking at Facebook? Are you looking at Instagram? Are you looking at TikTok? It's crazy. Are you hitting any of those?
None of those.
Okay.
I care to a certain extent, right? But if I'm talking to you and I found out that you've got issues on social media, I'll find that out. But it's not something that and I have plenty of friends that are in my position, mentors that do look at Facebook. They do look at comments that you've made in the past, and I'm also not a judger of things that you've potentially done wrong in the past, right? I want to know who you are today. I want to know where you want to be and where you want to go. And I also think, like, when you talk about resumes, what's your mission statement? Like what is it you're trying to accomplish? Like if you're going to sell me on you and you're going to sell me on my company, how are you going to describe what you do and why we're having the conversation? And it should be black and white right up front on that resume, or even on LinkedIn, right? It should be up front of who you are as a salesperson, or whatever position you're applying for. So I tend to look at those things from that lens.
That, by the way, that's great. We're jumping around quite a bit, but this is what this is all about. We're trying to give people as much as they possibly can to help them. Let's go back to you and your team for a second.
Sure.
As a VP, as a leader, as a manager, how are you motivating these people to be successful? And I know you talked about the human aspects and being a person and being there and, but let's peel back the layer of the onion here a little bit and talk a little bit how you really motivate your team.
Yeah. I mean, I really have to understand what they're trying to do. First of all, we're all in here to make money. I mean, that's the easiest way for me to motivate you is you have a job and you do your job and you make money, but that's too simple, right? Because that's not rewarding to everyone, right? I mentioned things that are meaningful to me, that help me, that's rewarding to me, right?
Absolutely.
Some people, it's getting them more face-to-face meeting, getting them more in front of people. They thrive in that arena, right? Or it's giving you time off to do charitable things. It's being there and understanding what motivates you to I can adapt to the things that are that are important. And it's hard, Justin. I mean, I have 6 reps, potentially 7, and I've got to understand 7 different personalities.
Oh yeah.
7 different ways to motivate someone outside of, hey, you've got a commission plan and I need to help you get you in front of more people and get you more opportunities, because that translates into more business. But that part of it's important too. It's how do I get you more bats? How do I understand that? And how do I show them that I can do the things that they do? So it's actually not just saying, hey, I need you to call this many people. I need you to email. I need you to have these types of things. But I can help motivate them by showing them that, look, I know how to do this stuff too. I've been in your shoes. I understand where you're at. If you're struggling, right? If you look at hockey, right, or you look at any sport, if in baseball, if you're in a slump, are you just going to keep doing the things you're doing?
Can't.
No. In hockey, you're not scoring goals anymore, but how do you help how do you help your team in other areas?
Like that last hole in Tin Cup, man.
Yeah, exactly. But truly, as a leader, you need to understand that. You need to be able to put the pieces in place to be able to make the whole ship work, right?
Absolutely.
So if you're not selling, I kind of call it the birthday cake layer, right? If you're not selling, you're doing activities, you're doing X, Y, and Z. And if you're seeing success with that, it's going to translate, right? And if you continue to do the right things, but how do I put you in a position if you're not hitting your number, you're not selling, I've got to help them, look at other things that are going to help them get to that point and piece it together. And as a coach on a team, it's like you've got to put the right pieces in place to make the whole thing work. So if you're not scoring one day, well, maybe you need to focus on defense, right? Or if you're not selling one day, maybe you need to go talk to 5 partners to help them find you more deals, right?
Absolutely.
It's those little things I think that I help, that's my job to help kind of bring that together.
So you and your team right now are selling cloud-based solutions that transform finance and accounting department. Yep. What's coming next? What do you think? Like, are you seeing anything out there? You seeing anything in the industry? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question. It's not a new term, but it is a term called RPA, which is robotics process automation. And that's been around in manufacturing. It's been around in multiple industries for years. Telecommunications, it's been around, right? But the idea of AI for finance, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, you'd been like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is pretty black and white. We got to do these things. But if you think about the amount of data that continues to filter in I've got 8 ERPs, I've got multiple finance systems, I've got this archaic system that was written in a different language, right? I've got, multi, international, currency, languages. Well, your ability to, if you think about your cell phone, you think about anything to be able to automate or adapt to what's going on. I think that robotics process automation is the future, right? And that's, there's plenty of people that would say the same thing. There's plenty of, communications out there that really talk about this. But really it's how do we get more efficient without overhead, without, with less. It's not necessarily we're gonna like get rid of humans in this process. You still gotta, if you have an automated car, you still gotta tell it where to go.
Absolutely.
So there's always going to be, humans involved, but if I can take your data and I can match it up and sync it together, just like in any other, modern, digital marketing, it's the same concept. It's, how do I take and create more efficiencies with mashing your data together from multiple systems so that when you go to close your books, instead of you taking 10 days to close your books, if I could shrink that to 3, well, now all your humans that have been working on that, what else could they be doing? Because they don't just do closing, the books. There's other, accounting and finance things that they have to do. There's HR practice. There's all these things.
Legal. Yeah.
Legal. There's all these things they're doing, right? So if I could shrink that and create less risk by automating a process, by using AI to determine what data looks and feels and smells like this data, so that I match it up and I can tell you that on your general ledger, these things should be here based off of past things that have happened, right? So it's taken that same process and kind of adding it now into finance. I think, honestly, it's got to go there. But we're seeing it across the the board. I won't make a blanket comment for Blackline by any means, but it's I see it day to day talking with CFOs.
Interesting. Really interesting. So technology is one thing, people are another.
Yep.
The connection of those two are super important. Let's go back to the people aspect. If there's any advice that you could give to our listeners, people that are logging in to listen to this, life, work, entrepreneurship, etc. Like, let's talk about it. Give us some advice.
Sure. I mean, slow down. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's like, and I'm an athlete, so I kind of go back to those analogies. But if you take a LeBron James, you take a Tiger Woods, you take any of these key athletes, right? The reason why they're so successful in their careers is, in the beginning, it was fast, right? It's everything's coming at you, everything's coming fast. But
at each level, it's a little faster, a little faster, a little faster.
How do I take that noise and kind of, shrink it back down, right? How do I, and those guys, why they're so successful is everything is slow. The game could be going so fast in hockey. The game can be going so fast in basketball.
Even golf.
It's even in golf, right? You get this tunnel vision where you have this focus, and the focus is on the exact moment at the exact time. And they have the ability to adapt to those different scenarios because everything is slower. Everything that was moving fast is now slower. The same thing goes in business, right? You can have, Maslow's hierarchy, you can have the methodology, all these things come, I got new technology. It's all coming at you hard right now. It's all coming at you fast. Slow down. Do what's important for you and for the company and for where you want to be at that moment. Think about things in that
wow.
Way. And I think things become a lot easier. You can bucket, there's all kinds of methodologies that we can talk about, and I can teach people, but it's honestly just slowing down. It's helped me immensely in my career, because you get worried about all these things that don't mean anything right at the moment, right? You can put that in the bottom quadrant or the top quadrant, however you look at it, but yeah. It's those things that matter in the moment that you're in. Focus on those things and be So tomorrow, the little things. Something you're good at and own it, right? Find something you're good at and own it. I think that will help people in their careers. And it'll help you find your path, because I think the biggest challenge for your younger audience that's in business is people are still trying to find themselves. And, I think it's just slow down. We're in a world of fast everything.
Oh yeah.
If you can find a way to slow any of that down, do it.
Hugely successful. We got an open forum here. Is there anything that I should have asked you and didn't, do you think? I mean, anything else you want to add?
Thinking about that. I mean, that's a loaded question.
Yeah, for sure. We do that well.
No, I mean, I think you hammered in on a lot of the kind of the, life business, kind of understanding, what you're doing in COVID terms and in this world. I think, we can certainly dive into that more, where it's understanding kind of day-to-day stuff. I think the other thing is the opposite of me mentoring and me kind of working with, my reps and recruiting. But then how do you manage up? Like I think that's a lot of things that people don't realize that are extremely important. How do you set expectations? I think, questions around that may be important just to your audiences, because, sometimes you kind of get in this groove and you understand how to, work with your peers, but then you've got a boss that just sucks, right?
Not saying you do, right? At all.
Not saying I do, because I don't.
We've all been in those situations.
We've all been in those situations. So, how do you manage the other way? And how do you manage your career the other way? Because that'll honestly make or break a lot of the stuff that you do in your career. Because you burn a bridge one way, you don't do the right things because you're pissed off about something that happened, and you become, you just take things too literally or too seriously. Those little things add up, man, in your career, and you've seen it. You've seen, hell, I've been through it. You've seen me go through it, right? So I mean, it's those little things matter if you don't think about those things correctly.
And it ties into slowing down. So if you can slow it down and really think about and realize what matters most, I think that that's a really great point. So for our listeners out there, take Ben's advice. Obviously LinkedIn is something that's huge that he's looking at, as well as resumes, but make sure that resume is updated. Slow it down, figure out what's important to you, and be a good person. And I think that those points are really going to come through in a meaningful person, right? A good, meaningful person. Don't fake it. Be real.
Yeah. Own you, right? I mean, I think that's kind of the one, mantra that I think about every day when I go through my day is, and I also, the one thing that I think that I tell my reps and we go through on our one-on-ones, it's a very important key aspect to the daily week for me with my reps is I ask them at the end of our one-on-one, what have you done to get better from last week? And it doesn't have to be work related. It could be personal relation. It could be, I learned how to play the ukulele. I don't know. It could be whatever, right? I went fishing. Like, I don't care, but like, tell me about it. Tell me, what have you done to get better from our previous conversation last week, right? And it's something that I stick to and I use every day.
That's great. That's great. Ben, I really appreciate you coming on today. Episode 1. Go enjoy your vacay. I think that's coming up here.
Yeah.
And we'll be in touch. We'll do this again for sure.
Awesome. I think it's going to be a great platform for your audience, Justin. I appreciate the time today. Thank you so much.
Awesome, buddy. Take care.
Take care.
Yeah.